Hello and welcome to my FlossTube channel. I'm Jean Farish and I am so glad that we get to spend this time together to talk about needlework and other related topics. So before I forget though, I want to ask you to subscribe, and if you hit that little bell icon, then you will get reminders when I have a new episode. It's been a few weeks since I have been with you. I am still recovering from my hand surgery. I'm still with a removable splint, and more each day. I am out of it more than I'm in it. I still don't have quite the strength that I once had, and I'm still working on my dexterity, doing that physical therapy, just really sticking with it, and I am hoping to see some progress in the next couple of weeks. So today I thought I would spend some time talking about the universal tool that every needleworker has. And if they don't already have a pair, they need one. And that's a good pair of embroidery scissors. I think the place to start is to talk about the characteristics of a good pair of embroidery scissors. And I use that term embroidery as that big umbrella term. And under that umbrella of embroidery, you have counted cross stitch, which most of my viewers do, any sort of counted thread work, whether it's reticella, head bow, heart hanger, white work, pulled and drawn thread work, needlepoint, surface embroidery, stump work, any of these sorts of embroidery. These are the characteristics to me of your standard pair of embroidery scissors. And I do want to start by making it clear that when I'm talking about these scissors, we're cutting cotton or silk. If you are doing any sort of metallic work, I would suggest a different pair of scissors for that. In fact, if you're doing metallic work, you really need to have two pair, one for your cotton and silk or any non-metallic, and another pair for your metallics. So with that said, what are these characteristics? And as usual, a picture's worth 1,000 words. So I'm going to use this pair of scissors as an example. And I guess actually before I even get into the characteristics, let's talk about protecting your scissors with some sort of a sheath. So the scissors that I have been using for about 6 months exclusively, and I have really fallen in love with them to the point where I have now included them in my Etsy store, are made in England. And what makes this pair a classic pair of embroidery scissors is, first of all, they are relatively small. And you want a small pair of scissors so that they're easy to manipulate. So let's take a look. Overall, this pair is just under 4 inches, or those of you who are using the metric system, just under 10 millimeters. And that's one of the things to look for in a good pair of embroidery scissors. So when we talk about 4-inch scissors, we don't mean 4-inch blades. We're talking about 4 inches overall. Okay, the next thing is that the blades need to be sharp. They need to come to a very clear point. They need to be narrow in this way, and they need to be thin in this way. So both of those things are important. Now, this pair happens to have a rose gold finish. I've been using them for about 6 months now, and I have really enjoyed them. This pair is made in England, and I've added them to my Etsy store. And this one comes in a gold finish and a flat black finish, as well as the rose gold. The next thing you want to look for in a pair of scissors is for them to be comfortable. The finger holes need to fit. So that's another thing to look for. Of course, besides these characteristics of what makes a pair of embroidery scissors, you also need to take in consideration your own budget. So what does a good pair of embroidery scissors cost? All the ones in my Etsy store range in price from $33, that's US dollars, to $56. And I would say that in that price range, whether you're shopping in my Etsy store or anywhere, you should be able to find a good pair of embroidery scissors, one that is both a workhorse and is lovely to look at and comfortable to use. And of course, you know, it has to you have to check all the boxes in terms of what makes a good pair of embroidery scissors. And then beyond that, you've got design and just what appeals to you visually. Now, you can get a pair of embroidery scissors for $4. You can buy a pair of embroidery scissors for $600. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. The range is that broad. So again, look for overall length of 4 inches or less. Your blades need to be sharp, pointed, thin, and narrow. They need to be comfortable to use. Once you get past that, you've got finish and design. I like whimsical scissors, and when I pulled out some of the ones that I wanted to show you today, one of my favorite pair is this polka dotted pair. I bought this when I was working on a particular design, and I just really, it just really spoke to me in terms of just being just a clever, just, you know, whimsical. But again, the blades are pointed, they are narrow, they are thin, and they are sharp. So functioning wise, this has still been a good choice. I don't remember how much this pair was, but I'm sure it was like under $20. This is a pair I bought a number of years ago, and again, what appealed to me was the overall design. And then coincidentally, 2 of my students gifted me this wonderful scissor fob, which just, to me, just matched it beautifully. But again, the blades are pointed, they're thin, they're narrow, they're sharp. Don't compromise on those features when you are buying a pair that you pick up. You say, oh, these are cute, these are whimsical, this matches my project. Whatever's going through your mind, make sure that they're going to function well. Now, the other pair of scissors that I want to show you that checks most of those boxes is this pair. And I think I've shared this before in an earlier video. These are often found in Needlework stores by the cash register as you're checking out. Boy, that's becoming one of those terms that's sort of going to be archaic, isn't it? A cash register. When I think of cash registers, my grandmother in Danville, Virginia had this wonderful little neighborhood store, and she had one of those huge brass cash registers that you had to push down each one of the buttons as you put in the amount of money that you were adding up. And that thing had to have been like this tall and this wide, or at least that's how I remember it looking back on, golly, I guess the last time I saw that I was maybe 12 or 13 years old. And it's certainly one of those things I wish we still had. But I digress, as usual. So very often where you check out in a store, you'll find this type of scissors. They come in a bright green, bright yellow, bright pink. And I love these for traveling. They are very inexpensive. I like the fact it comes with a built-in sheath. But again, they're still pointed. They're still thin. They're still sharp. And when you're traveling, I forgot to start my close-up camera again. Okay, so if you're watching this and it looks choppy when I'm doing the close-ups, it's because, once again, I forgot to hit the start button. So, going back here. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, so these are very, very inexpensive, and to me, they're the ideal scissors for traveling. Well, that's just going to make extra work for me when I go back to edit, but what can I say? So let me show you one other pair of scissors I think that are very helpful for people who may need a little bit of extra space in those finger holes. And hopefully I'm going to remember to hit that start button when let me see which box they're in. I love the way these scissors come boxed. Very well packaged in terms of the way they're shipped. They're held in place by a thing. You know, what do you call these things? Anyway, they come with a little bit of a sheath, which is nice for protection. I'm not real crazy about these, and I'm actually looking for a source to add to my Etsy store that's leather, that will fit a little closer. So these are called Big Bow scissors, and they have a larger finger hole. So let me lay this pair on top of it so you can really see how much bigger that pair is. So that's, you know, before when I said you need to look for scissors that are comfortable, that's one of the features, I think. Okay, stop. That's one of the features to look for. Let me go ahead and show you these other pair. Okay, so let's see. All right, so you already saw, this is the rose gold. And that style comes in gold. And also a matte black. I don't know if this is really going to show. I think this pair I've already cut that wire tie. Yeah, so you can see. These are just really lovely. I think this might be my next pair. And they just have a nice feel to them. That's the other thing too. If you're really seriously shopping for a pair of embroidery scissors, bring a little scrap of fabric and actually get them out and cut and see how they feel to you. I think I forgot about this pair. Oh yeah, these are the epaulette. I like this the style. And again, when you start looking at this sort of feature, that's not going to affect the function of the pair of scissors at all. That's just a matter of personal preference. So that's nice. And the absolute classic pair of needlework scissors is a stork style. And I want to take a look real fast. It seems like to me they're slightly smaller. Yeah. So just a little bit shorter than the first pair that I was showing you. So I hope that gives you an idea of things to look for when you're shopping for a good pair of embroidery scissors. Whether you stitch in hand, use stretcher bars, scroll frames, Q-snaps, whatever, the universal tool that every needleworker uses is a good pair of scissors. So treat yourself. And I would also say that if, you know, budget's a consideration, and frankly, it is for everyone, invest in the best pair of scissors that you can afford. It'd be better to buy one good pair of scissors for $45 than to buy a $15 pair that doesn't function well, and then you turn around and buy another $15 pair, and the next thing you know, you've spent $45. So go ahead and buy that good pair to start with. And if you've got a birthday or anniversary or Christmas or any holiday that involves gift giving, put it on your list and let those that you love know that the thing that you would love more than anything else is a good pair of embroidery scissors. I've been gearing up for 2 trips that are coming up. One is our September cruise. This one sails out of Boston, and we're sailing up to several ports of call in New England, Nova Scotia, all the way down the St. Lawrence Seaway to Quebec City, and then back to Prince Edward Island, and then coming back to Boston. Now, I'll be teaching on that cruise, of course, but I'm really, really looking forward to spending time with needleworkers and our guest teachers as well. Debbie Rowley's coming along to teach needlepoint, And I'm looking forward to spending some time with her as well. And of course, the excursions are just going to be a whole lot of fun. So while I'm on that trip, I'm going to try to do at least one floss tube episode to share a little bit of that journey with you. And then right after that, in fact, I'm driving up to Boston. And then when I leave Boston, I'm driving to Hershey, Pennsylvania for the Fall Getaway V, fifth year for this wonderful retreat organized by LinAnn. And I'll be teaching a couple of classes there. Last I talked with them, there's still space in that retreat. So if you're looking for something to do that first weekend in October, I would love to see you there, and make sure that you say hello and let me know that you're one of my viewers. One of the classes I'm going to be teaching on that during that retreat is this this class will have pre-work for all the cross stitch, and then the class is actually learning how to do the finishing to make the stocking. And I teach a way to put a little pocket on the back that you could put a gift card. I just put one of my business cards in here, or you could put cash or a little trinket or whatever in there. So that's one of the classes I'll be teaching, and I'll be teaching the sampler of the hair in the basket. Let's see, I think that brings you up to speed with what I am doing. And you know, this trip I'm driving, but very often I fly to get to the various places where I need to teach. And that always brings to mind the questions about traveling with needlework. Of course, here it is the end of the summer, you know, the big travel season in the US is coming to a close. But for most of us, you know, it's a year-round thing. And the question that comes up all the time is how to travel with your needlework. And one of the big questions that always comes up is about the scissors. And I just want to again emphasize, I've said this before on other episodes, when you are packing your carry-on case, do not pack any pair of scissors that you're not willing to give up. TSA regulations clearly state at this point that a pair of scissors that are 4 inches or less is acceptable. But I would not travel with a pair that had sentimental reasons. If you've got your grandmother's pair of stork scissors, don't put them in your carry-on. If you have one of the people who has those scissors that cost hundreds of dollars, don't put them in your carry-on. And that's talking about U.S. domestic flights. The pair of scissors that I travel with is that little pair that I showed you, like this. That's what I travel with all the time. If they're confiscated, I haven't lost anything. I also want to say that we focus so much on TSA regulations, but if you travel internationally, the pair of scissors that's acceptable from your domestic airport to your destination is different than when you're leaving that foreign destination and coming back to the U.S. I hear horror story after horror story of needleworkers who have their scissors confiscated. And when I say that, it's not like they set them aside and are willing to mail them to you. They're gone. You're not going to get them back. And there's no sense in arguing with anybody about it. So just a word of caution, take a pair of scissors that you would be willing to give up in your carry-on. Needles should not be an issue. There are a lot of people who will swear by the little disc thing that basically is a circular razor blade that's in a pendant that you wear around your neck. They use for cutting. A really astute TSA agent is going to take those. So again, a lot of people suggest using them. I personally would not. Again, spend a few bucks and get a pair of basically disposable scissors, should it come to that. The other thing is be sensible about the amount of time that you're going to be stitching, and be considerate of your fellow passengers. I recently read a post that somebody made about traveling, and they were going to bring their scroll frame that's a lap type apparatus, and making the point that they'd be taking it apart and then putting it back together once they're on the plane. And I just can't imagine. You don't. It's not like you're sitting in, you know, a big chair in your living room. Airline seats are small, and there's not a lot of elbow room. So be considerate of that passenger who's sitting next to you. Now, if you're traveling on a plane, there's 3 seats in a row, and the other 2 seats are occupied by people you're traveling with, that's up to y'all. But be considerate of your other passengers, and don't bring a lot of stuff that's going to kind of impede the space of the people around you. When we stitch in public, we are all ambassadors for needlework. And you never know what impression you're going to make, what impression you're going to leave among people who see you. And let's just be positive and energetic and considerate and mindful when we're stitching in public. So I'll leave you with that thought, and hope to see you next week. Between now and then, stitch happy, stay safe, and I'll see you later.